Hey guys, back with another Echoing Thoughts podcast here. Episode number, was it 61? It's been a while. It has been a while. Sorry, 61. Sorry last week. Missed one. I actually had a guest lined up. And my sewer pipe or my toilet overflowed in my house. And we were freaking out, and we found out that our sewer, I guess the sewer line outside just burst. I guess the ground above it wasn't compacted enough, and it just sank into it, and it ended up just destroying our sewer line, and it just backed up. We were doing laundry, and it wasn't any shit water or anything like that, but we were doing laundry, and the water just backed up and came out. The toilet was just the first point of release, I guess, the first valve, and messed up. Our flooring's all messed up over here. Luckily, my wife was here to get it resolved pretty quick. She was there. She turned off the water. She was put towels down, kind of kept it contained. Luckily, she was home and kind of heard it happening, but we just got home back into the house. They fixed it up Monday, and flooring still hasn't been fixed. It was chaos. Luckily, they put us in a hotel. We having a developer, kind of a newer build, so the developer kind of took care of it, took the blame, and we were fortunate there. But I'm gonna tell you one thing. Hotels are nice. Hotels are fun. You think of it as an adult and as a teenager, how, staycations, vacations, things like that. But man, with two toddlers under 4 years old, it's just not enough space. It was actually so stressful. Glad to be back home. Glad to be back podcasting. And just a little bit of a background on crazy wild week. But we're back, and I want to talk about something. There was if you don't know, into sports or anything like that, LeBron James, he just launched a podcast with JJ Redick, and their first episode dropped, I think Tuesday or something, and they were talking about what makes a great player. And that was something that got me thinking about for our game, because, with Lucid just coming out, teams clearing, teams struggling, obviously gear levels is a factor, but with any new boss, there's always a gap or a tier level between good players and great players, good teams and great teams, and how well they do with those newer content, with newer situations. It's not just team bossing as well. It's things like when Covert first comes out, when Mulong has a new revamp, stuff like Guild Honor Battle, back when soloing Hard Magnus was a thing, soloing Arc. There are just, certain things that great players of this game, just the mobile game, that they have that really separates them from good players, and things that I've noticed. And I kind of wanted to, I was really thinking about it. I wanted to bring it up in this pod as a big topic, because I think when you're a player trying to get into new content, end game content, I've talked about it before, how, I would always take someone that is reliable, is prepared, is willing to ask questions over someone, maybe they're with lesser gear, over someone that has more gear, but is, is struggling to pick up things quickly, dying a lot, not doing enough DPS, not living up to their kind of potential per se, right? And that got me thinking about what makes a great player. And that was a topic I want to talk about in this podcast. And then at the end, I'll talk about some questions that I've been getting on the YouTube. I've been getting a lot, so I appreciate those. If you want any more questions, try to get to them. Comment below in the YouTube comments. Again, DM me on Discord. I just had someone quickly ask me, in game, left a note. They said, it's a fellow paladin. He was just asking what what's a good time to use Echo and Synchro, right? And I basically said I put Echo, Divine Echo, our biggest cooldown on pet. So I have it up. I know when I have it up. Don't really have to think about it. Don't overthink it. And then Synchro is really situational, right? It's an iframe. Don't want to just use it randomly. It is 30 seconds, right? There's a lot of wiggle room, but I like to use it in certain instances. It's situational depending on the bosses, things like that. You can really maximize that 30 seconds. And then, but yeah, if you have any questions in game, you're in NA Scania, Discord, DM me there. I reply back to those pretty quickly. I love answering those private messages. And of course, YouTube, feel free to answer or ask any questions there. But I wanted to get into this, the things that make a great player. So the first thing that I think about when it comes to a great player, and this is, is the love for the game is huge. Something I notice when the great players, that separates the great players from the good players or the average player, right? And I think the reason for that is that they tend to enjoy the process more than just the end result, right? They tend to enjoy all aspects of the game, the dailies, the progression, the kind of the grinding aspects that a lot of people think are chores, that a lot of people think are inconvenient, that take too much time. The great players just seem to love everything and take advantage of everything that the game has to offer, unrelated to bossing, unrelated to, training, just everything, right? They take advantage of ults, Legion. They play new classes. They try out new things. They know the ins and outs of how to make mezzos, all that stuff. They're the first ones to read patch notes and understand it and kind of break it down and take advantage of new changes. And I think there's a lot of the population, especially the whale population, that doesn't really do that. And you see time and time again, people burn out. They don't end up doing their dailies. They don't end up being consistent and upkeeping it because they just don't love it, right? They just don't love the game in that way. And that's totally fine, right? They may just love a part of it. Maybe it's the RNG part. Maybe it's the gambling part. Maybe it's the leveling part. But they don't love everything about the game. And I think the great players really just, it exudes just their enjoyment, right? They don't really talk too negative about the game. They just get excited about the good things that they bring, the good things that are about the game instead of, complaining this and that. And so I think that's number one, right? I think just loving the game, I tend to kind of gravitate toward those people that love to talk about the game, the new changes, because they're the types of people that I can relate to, right? Because I'm very passionate about the game. I enjoy it. I enjoy, kind of all aspects of it. Still learning, but I think that is something that I've been, it's never dulled. It's never felt inconvenient for me. Not yet anyway. And then the second thing that I think is arguably the most important, I'm going to have kind of three things, but the second one is pretty general. It's like an umbrella of a lot of things, and I'm gonna go deeper into it. But the second thing is having a high IQ. And again, what I mean by that is there's layers to it, right? First thing you have to have great players, right? High IQ, a certain level of mastery of your specific class, right? That's number one, right? You have to know your skill rotation. You have to know what all your skills do. You have to know what tools you have in your toolkit, how to survive, mobility, healing, iframes, DPS. If you have certain toggle things that are for mobbing versus training, sort of little tips and tricks that maybe not even all mains of your class know, right? So for example, like as a paladin main, right? People know how to do DPS. People know the rotation is very simple. People know about Synchro and Echo and, the skin. blanking on what the skill, Immortal Skin or something like that, the V3 common iframe. People know about that. But what people probably, or a smaller percentage of people know, is that one, res is an iframe. That's been around for a long time. That is something that you may or may not know. Some people may not even know that their V3 skill is an iframe. Some people may not know that Smite Shield is a stun. But I think the one thing that maybe 1% of the 1% of Paladins know is a skill called Divine Shield. And this is arguably one of the best tools in your toolkit for survivability and, more importantly, solo content especially. And Divine Shield, you look it up, it used to be not that good, but Explorer Remaster revamped it. And essentially what it is every 30 seconds. So it's actually a debuff where for 15 second cooldown, you're actually going to do HP scaling reduction damage. So things like if you ever do Von Leon and you have your hammers up and you have Divine Shield up, it's kind of a little blue icon. You're not going to die to the lightning skill. You're not going to take zeros for all their skills basically, because those are all HP scaling skills. But you may know that. But what you also don't know is that you actually can immune the first attack every 30 seconds, the one that does damage. And it's actually an amazing skill to have when you combined it with Synchro, because basically after Synchro is done, you have the iframe, you actually have a window where you're going to immune that first skill, the damage from that first skill. So if it's a one-shot skill, like you can just stand there and DPS, right? You know you have that buffer. And if you have Blitz Shield on, right, and Fair Trade, so right, the Fair Trade ticking damage plus Blitz Shield, it's not going to proc Divine Shield. Now, if you don't have Blitz Shield and you're using Fair Trade, that first tick of Fair Trade 2500 damage is actually going to proc the shield. But if you have Blitz Shield up and you have protecting you and you have Fair Trade up, you can actually use it to your advantage survivability wise, DPS wise, because you know that that first skill is a freebie every 30 seconds. Now, it may not be something that you're always monitoring, and you may probably don't even notice it because it saves your life when you're not even thinking about it. You're not necessarily micromanaging it, but the great players know about this skill and use it to their advantage. And I remember that's when I first knew there was a great paladin, Blast Hammer in Asia, that I was talking to when Mulong came out, and he was the one that we were talking about this skill, Divine Shield, how we use it to our advantage for Mugong, clearing floor 45. It's such an underrated skill. Not too many people know about it. I talked about it when I was clearing it back then, but it's nice. It's huge. And sometimes it goes unnoticed, but just little things like that. Every class, every master of their class, the high EQ players know kind of those ins and outs, right? Of, certain skills, when to use it, what can help you min-max DPS-wise, min-max survivability-wise, things like that. So that's number one, high EQ of your class. But then there's another level to it, right? I think just because you're a master of your class doesn't make you necessarily a great player by itself, right? I think good players are masters of their class. They know their ins and outs. I think what makes a great player, that next tier above, kind of that S tier, is those players that know, obviously, boss mechanics. That kind of goes hand in hand. But I think it's also about knowing other classes, right? And those are sort of those people that stand out because you can tell those players know, in certain situations, what maybe a bishop can do to help the team, right? What maybe a Sia can do to help the team. When to split for shade split. Maybe the paladin doesn't have a stun. Who else can stun, right? Maybe they're not available. Maybe they're dead, right? When to time leap. What phantoms can steal in certain situations to help optimize, survivability, help optimize DPS, help optimize just support for the team, right? And those are the great players that just have a level of understanding of the game, right? Not just your class, not just the boss, but kind of everything, right? Everything that's involved. Because those are kind of the people that again, love the game, know the game, have that high IQ that I think really separates, you know, the great players from, you know, the really good players even, because they can not only, even if they're not even playing that class, right? You know, there's people that are playing multiple classes at the highest level. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about, that's a whole nother craziness. I'm just talking about people that know enough about other classes to help give input, give feedback, can watch a VOD of your character, right? Like of a paladin perspective, my perspective, and see what buffs are being used in that top corner, right? Are you shelling at the right time? Are you benediction at the right time? Is your hourglass up for a Sia? You know, is Sankro up? You know, those type of party buffs, what is at the team's disposal, what certain classes have, and also when to use it and when to see, and they're just able to pick up on things very quickly and make changes and really, you know, spread that knowledge and help other people, even educate some really, really good players on how to play their class or how to do better, which is just insane, another level, right? But that's what I think separates the good from the great players, right? And the third one is, I'll be right back and we'll talk about the third one. And then the third one for what makes a great player, right? We talked about having high IQ, understanding your class, having the mastery, understanding other classes to help the team, the game, and having that love for the game. This third one is arguably the hardest part, in my opinion, and that is sort of consistency, right? That's the easiest word the best word to describe it is consistent excellence, or just consistency, just straight up consistency. And I think we see this all the time, where sometimes great players or good players do good DPS one run, and then they, for some reason, go from first to third, right? Go from first to fourth, or they do 10, 15, 20% less damage they did before. And it's unreliable. It's kind of makes you wonder what's going on there, right? And I think the biggest differentiator that makes someone great is that, one, they learn from their mistakes, easy, right? Or they take criticism, right? They can, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be the person that's telling other people what to do or how to improve or giving them feedback, but it could be that a great player is also someone that can take feedback, input, and apply it. Next run, next day, they're making those changes. They're understanding, I cannot die to this. Why am I dying to this? Or when can I use my skill a little bit earlier or better to help improve, clear run, improve a time, something like that, help the team do more DPS. So it's not necessarily that only one person on the team or a few people that are kind of delegating is a great player. I think it also takes a great characteristic of a great player is someone that can take feedback, improve quickly, and again, being consistent, right? They're not gonna remember one thing, remember what you tell them one time, and then forget to do it the next run, right? And keep having go reminder, and that's what makes, like, I love about our team and the teams that really do well when new bosses come out is that, yes, there's a certain amount of people that are kind of giving feedback, but there's also, like, it also says a lot about the team when they can improve so quickly and take the criticism. That, to me, is a great player, right? A great player. And back to consistency, I think when you know, consistency comes, in my opinion, with preparation. Like, when I see a new player try out a new boss for the first time, I already know right away kind of what to expect, or what if they're prepared, right? And that just shows to me, like, if you're committed, if you have that IQ, if you have that love for the game where you're actually going to watch videos on how to run, understand mechanics, ask questions, maybe going even solo into, like, I've told a lot of people in Lotus, in Damien, in solo arc, even in Lucid, go in solo. Even if it's just phase one, like it is so beneficial for you to go in there, see how much attacks hit for, if there's a certain pattern recognition that you can see, like if there's maybe certain skills, certain iframes or skills that you can use to dodge or to survive one hit shots. If there's, some sort of timing or pattern, just being familiar with it, being prepared. And I think what great players do is they are always, they're just never caught off guard, right? And even if they are, it happens, but they're the ones that can react quickly, right? They can react on the fly. And that, it just, when I think of some of the teams that struggle, or the good players, right? Very good players that put out a ton of DPS, but once something goes wrong, it falls apart, they don't know what to do, right? They're very good when things are going perfect, according to plan, everything is in rotation, no one's dying, like everything is as expected. When there's a pattern, you stick to it. Good players are amazing. They'll pump out DPS and do great. The great players, but once things start to fall apart, say like in Damien, we have a Rotted that comes up, we miss an altar. Great players and great teams, right? But great players recognize this, the importance, the level of urgency for we got to get this next altar. Or Lucid, we got to get this next cleanse. Understanding mechanics, the importance of it, being able to adapt on the fly, communicating, things like that is what really separates, a team, a player even, or a team from sort of making the difference between a clear and a fail, right? And that is all, like, simple things like that are really, really hard to do, and really, really hard to prepare for, right? And it takes reps, it takes experience, it takes practice, but it also takes sort of what I call, film study, watching runs back, improving individually, kind of being students of the game, and kind of encompassing everything I talked about. Just loving watching videos back, whether it's a clear or a fail, right? Enjoying the process altogether, trying to improve, trying to be masters of your class, trying to understand what other classes do as well, knowledge there, and just trying to end all be all consistency. Just consistency is really hard to replicate, especially when things aren't as smooth, and that is where great players really stand out, right? No matter what the situation is, no matter what happens around them, no matter if people are struggling to keep up, or people are having a hard time, they are just a staple, right? They can survive, they can do DPS, and that is what I think is just such a differentiator and makes great players just that tier above. So I'm just curious what you guys think, right? I think there's a lot of factors to being a great player. There's a lot of them, right? I see it all the time. I talk to a lot of them all the time. I think people don't realize how much everything that I tell you guys, I'm brainstorming with other people, right? A lot of smart people have a lot of information, knowledge behind the scenes, behind this podcast. I'm kind of just the one that's displaying it, sharing it with everybody else. But trust me, I'm learning just as much as other people. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. What makes a great player kind of in this game, just in their craft in general. But yeah, that listening to LeBron's podcast, it just made me think about that and relate it to our game. But yeah, let me know in the comments. We'll take a break and then I'll answer some questions. All right. Question from YouTube. Alvin Lee 9162. Is it worth going for Von Leon max damage cap temporarily as free to play? I don't know how much mezzos for RA Souls. Yeah, all for it. My Bishop's got Von Leon. Not even temporarily, to be honest. Like, I think people, and I did this too, right? There are levels to cap, right? Difference between 1.3 and 1.5 mil cap, in the grand scheme of things, not that much, right? Even when you figure in ignore enemy defense, with the commander endgame bosses, it's not a lot, right? So if you are trying to find the most efficient, way to use your mezzos, Vonleon's a great option, right? Especially when it's like half the price of other ones. You could wait until Golden Apple comes out, right? Those prices are definitely going to drop even more. But yeah, Vonleon's a great option. But I also wouldn't worry about if Hilla's right there, 1.5, go for it too, right? If those are much cheaper than even the RA ones, the 1.5 mil cap is 1.5, it's still the equal same amount of cap, and the summon souls isn't as impactful as it used to be. So Vonleon, great option. But don't sleep on, even Hilla. Hilla's still good too. Next question. D, thank you, LOL. Hi, Echo. Why is your mythic secondary BA emblem but not physical damage? I thought physical damage emblem was better. You're right. It is. I just decided, well, it's funny. I had crit damage first, and then this was before crit rate change. So BA was actually better at the time, BA was better at the time. So I re-rolled it, got BA, stuck with it. And then of course, right after that, crit damage became better. It went physical damage, crit damage, boss attack. That's the best in the order. Now, why I stuck out boss attack? Because it's just something I didn't think was worth investing in, for minimal gains. Like I could be like, it's all chance, right? There's no guarantee. Even getting the change in the first place costs money. And then of course, mezzos. And then of course, getting the right emblem, 2 out of how many? You could get magic or physical defense and HP or whatever it is. It's all random kind of stuff that I didn't want to gamble with. I didn't think it was worth it. And so I'm BA, fine by me. If I change it eventually, I do, but I doubt it. It's plenty good enough. I don't think there's other things I can spend my resources on to that are better bang for my buck. All right. Limben9574. Huge fan of the informative series. Would there be a continuation of all the KLC videos? Looking forward to Wind Archer, Dawn Warrior, and Nightwalker. Yeah, I've been trying. Scheduling is tough. I mentioned at the top of the podcast that I had something lined up and it just fell through. It's tough. Like my schedule is pretty tough as it is because you get with content days. I got teams trying to run Lucid. I got trying to run a normal Damien team to help some more people get clears there, and family stuff. Right. I try not to play too much. Try to pack it into a few days and get this podcast going. And then on top of that, other people got lives too. Right. Some people like the Nightwalkers I had lined up live in a different time zone, or they're working at nights. Weekends are hard for them. I'm not trying to do weekends at all. People are in different parts of the world, Asia. Like I was trying to get, Geminis was like a day ahead, almost 24 hours ahead. I was trying to get Sephi. He's in the same time zone, pretty much 1 hour difference from Geminis. So it's hard, right? People's got lives, people got families. That's why it was a goal of mine to get more guests because I know how fun it is for me, how fun it is for you guys. You guys give me a lot of great feedback, but it's just, stuff happens. This is just hobby, right? We're not taking it, too seriously. It's just hard, right? It's just easier for me to just pull this up, do it myself. Because a lot of times my window, right? My window for doing this is small. So, it's tough to work on my schedule. I'm usually the one that makes it harder than everyone else does. Last question. This is a great question. Handful of comments. Question: is it worth leveling up V skill buffs like decent hyper body, etc., etc., etc.? I think it just depends, right? I think I haven't. Again, there's just a level of resource management, efficiency, right? If you have the resources, go for it. I know people that are just keeping all their node stones and leveling them slowly as they just auto battle. I went from selling nodes to make mesos to buy other stuff, or just hoarding it for V4 when that comes out in anniversary. But the gains from leveling up decent hyper body is just hyper body, sharp eyes, things like that, is just physical attack percent, magic attack percent, and that is the worst percent stat in the game. It's minimal. Now, it's something, right? It's a way to get stats, especially for those classes with clones, those classes that are, not capping some of their lines. Yeah, it's stats. But I just think that for not like even at my level, right, my tier of gear, I have other things that I would rather spend my mesos on, right? I would rather sell my mesos. I would rather save it for V4 coming up versus leveling up the decent skills, right? That's just, and so if you're, you can gauge your own situation. That's just my current perspective and my current, priorities. And I just think that even for a paladin that needs all the stats they can get, I don't see even though it's guaranteed gains, it's not priority for me. But great question, right? And yeah, it's a great question. I know people that have done it, they've done it, but yeah. Let me know if you have any more questions, YouTube, DM, Discord. Don't forget to subscribe. I appreciate everyone that's subscribed. I appreciate everyone that is liking, commenting, reaching out. It means a lot. I'm having a lot of fun doing it again. But if you're not subscribed, I really appreciate it. It means a lot. It's free content. So thank you again. Excited for more stuff coming soon. Hopefully get more guests. Trying, but no promises. But thank you for watching. Hopefully next week might have a good one for you. May do some class tiers list in prep for possible rebalance coming in April. Sort of my expectation. You wanna stay tuned for that one. But thank you again for watching, listening. I'll see you guys next time.